Hello, this is my semester-long project on the film Donnie Darko and how it connects with some of the things we did in class this semester. So first, I'm going to give a quick film synopsis of what goes on in the movie. Then I'm going to talk about some key characters that I think are really important to what I have to say and also just to the story in general. Then I'm going to do a close reading scene and I'm going to talk about some critical terms that came up within my research. So, number 1, film synopsis. So, what is the film about? Because it confuses a lot of people, but I'm going to tell you. The film follows Donnie Darko, which is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and it occurs because Donnie begins experiencing disturbing visions after he sleepwalks out of his room in the middle of the night and wakes up in a field. He starts seeing things, and he most notably sees a creepy bunny named Frank, who tells him that the world will end in 28 days. How did Donnie get in the field? He was sleepwalking, and while he was sleepwalking, a jet engine crashed into his room and was supposed to kill him. But it didn't kill him because he wasn't there. So he starts seeing these visions, and he sees Frank. And after this, some strange things start happening. Donnie starts acting weird, he's influenced by Frank, and he commits acts of vandalism, while also questioning his reality, the idea of time travel, and his own fate. And along with this, he falls in love, and this girl at school, her name is Gretchen, she helps ground him, yet ties into the tragic conclusion of the film. So throughout the movie, we watch the 28 days countdown, and during this time, Donnie's freaking out. He's trying to figure out what the doomsday clock he's seeing, like what it means to him and to his life and to his universe, and he discovers a book about time travel. And in reading this, he discovers he's living in a tangent universe, which is an unstable alternate reality that was created after he survived the jet engine crashing into his room. So, how does Donnie fix the tangent universe and the original universe? He has to correct the timeline to prevent catastrophe. And he does this by sacrificing himself and going back in time through like a wormhole and lets the jet engine kill him in the original timeline, which resets the events of the film and saves everyone, including Gretchen, who actually dies after getting run over by a car. But we're going to get into that. Next are some key characters. And so these are some characters that are going to appear in my close reading, but I also just felt were really important to understanding what's going on. So obviously we have Donnie. He's in high school. He's like an outsider, kind of emo, kind of strange, doesn't have a lot of friends, and he suffers from some mental illnesses. So yeah, that's Donnie. And then we have Jim Cunningham. So this is the guy in town that everyone loves. He writes self-help books. They look up to him. They trust him. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy knows everything. Well, in one of these acts of vandalism that Donnie perpetrates, we learn some really disturbing facts about him that we're going to get into. And then we have Gretchen, and she's the girl that Donnie falls in love with and is kind of, in my opinion, the most important character in the film because she is the catalyst for the conclusion of the film, and she's the one that ultimately helps Donnie decide that, yes, I'm going to sacrifice myself, and it's fine because she's going to live and I'm going to die, and it's going to be okay. So, most importantly, we have Frank. Now, Frank is this guy in a bunny costume, kind of scary, but who is he? What is he? So, while yes, Frank is a vision that Donnie has, he's more than that. And Frank is what the movie calls the manipulated dead. So, according to the philosophy of time travel, which is the book that Donnie discovers that helps him to figure out that he's living in this tangent universe, these are paranormal entities that are connected to the living receiver, Donnie, in some way and died within the tangent universe. Now, you're probably thinking, who is Frank and how is he even connected to Donnie? Because, like, we know what he is, but, like, who is he? So, Frank is actually really revealed to be a normal living human in the tangent universe, and actually, he's Donnie's sister's boyfriend. So, on accident, Frank kills Gretchen. He runs her over, and she dies. And Donnie is so upset that he kills Frank. He shoots him in the eye. And this allows Frank to become a manipulated dad. And these entities can time travel, and their job is to guide the living receivers on their mission to fix corruption in time and space. So Frank's mission is to get Donnie to figure out how to save the world without just telling him directly. Because Frank's kind of talks in riddles. But he's just like... My apologies. He's this person that Donnie's honestly scared of, but helps him along the way. So now we're going to get into this close reading analysis, and we're going to watch the Love, Fear, Lifeline scene of Donnie Darko.
As you can see, the lifeline is divided into two polar extremes, fear and love. Fear is in the negative energy spectrum, and love is in the positive energy spectrum.
Duh.
Excuse me? No, duh is a product of fear. Now, on each card is a character dilemma which applies to the lifeline. Please take this. Thank you. Please read each character dilemma aloud and place an X on the lifeline in the appropriate place. Sharita?
I'm actually going to fast... Oops. Oh, no. Hang on. Go back. What's happening? Oh my gosh, sorry. Let me fix this. I'm going to fast forward to when Donnie does the exercise. Right here. This is important.
Ling Ling finds a wallet on the ground filled with money. She takes the wallet to the address on the driver's license, but keeps the money inside the wallet. I'm sorry, Miss Farmer. I don't get this.
Just place an X on the lifeline in the appropriate place.
No, I mean, I know what to do. I don't get this. You can't just lump things into two categories. Things aren't that simple.
The lifeline is divided that way.
Well, life isn't that simple. I mean, who cares if Ling Ling returns the wallet and keeps the money? It has nothing to do with either fear or love.
Fear and love are the deepest of human emotions.
Okay, but you're not listening to me. There are other things that need to be taken into account here, like the whole spectrum of human emotion. You can't just lump everything into these two categories and then just deny everything else.
If you don't complete the assignment, you'll get a 0 for the day.
Donald, let me preface this by saying that your Iowa test scores are...
Basically, the scene ends, and Donnie says something bad to his teacher, and he doesn't end up doing the assignment. So, let's get into the scene a little bit. Basically, Donnie confronts this worldview that he has to focus on in class, which was created by the self-help guru, Jim Cunningham, who was on our character slide earlier. And Donnie argues that you can't put every human emotion onto a line because having everything on a line is too simple. And so, in my opinion, the bigger idea of the scene is the obsession with simplified, consumable versions of morality. Everything nowadays is simple and consumable and made for capitalistic benefit, but we can't put these ideals onto the idea of morality and ethicality. So the lifeline chart is only a part of human experience, just the two basic emotions of fear and love, and it's made to stand in for the complexity that are the emotions that come with living. And because Donnie doesn't complete the exercise, he resists being absorbed into a system that is obsessed with the simplistic morality of good versus evil rather than embracing the emotional truth that there is more to life than just these two emotions. He feels like everyone around him is the same, and by following this mindset, you're not actually living your life in a way that has meaning. You're living your life based on two emotions, and you're not actually gauging the human experience. And so this emotional repression highlights one of the subtle themes of the film, which is the struggle between a world that enjoys simplicity and Donnie, who insists on complexity and ambiguity. Like I said earlier, Donnie's an outsider. He likes being different, and everyone around him is the same. This conformity is the same. And in a way, it's representative of suburbia because Donnie is from like a Midwest town. That's the ideal, literally the epitome of suburbia. White picket fence, white houses, everyone's the same in the school. And Donnie stands out, and he's happy standing out. He likes being different. So Donnie's refusal to place himself on the line becomes a metaphor for the resistance against the systems of control that demand conformity and suppress complexity and uniqueness. Like I said, this system of control could be the idea of the capitalist mindset in suburbia in America. And the scene reveals the dangers of simplistic ethicality and the cost of conformity without question. Now, let's focus on the conformity without question. Earlier, I said that Donnie starts acting out and he's vandalous and things get a little dirty, a little messy, but Donnie ends up burning down Jim Cunningham's house. And in doing so, reveals that Jim Cunningham, this person that the town loves and trusts with their lives, is actually a child predator. So, by revealing this, it shows the dangers of simplistic ethicality and the dangers of the cost of conformity without question because these people in this town didn't question a thing that this guy did. They blindly followed him. And by blindly following him, they missed what's actually happening and that the guy is actually bad. However, we can't critique the love-fear lifeline so harshly because, ironically, Donnie does live within the spectrum, okay? He's scared of death. Like, a lot of the film, not a lot, but like the first half of the film, Donnie is freaking out because he's going to die. He doesn't know what's going to happen or how, but he sees this 28 days until the end of the universe, and he starts spiraling, which I would too. Like, I get it. Like, that's really scary. But along with this, he falls in love. He falls in love with a girl named Gretchen, and she is the catalyst for so many of his actions. Like, she changes him so exponentially that Donnie goes from being like this isolated individual to falling in love and finding this happiness and experiencing all these emotions and deciding in the end that he loves her so much that he wants to sacrifice himself and that just for her to be able to live and their whole relationship to not even exist in the original timeline. So this irony shows that while the lifeline is far too simple because, you can't put everything onto this line, fear and love still significantly shape human behavior, but alongside many other complex emotions as well. So, now we are on to some critical terms that came up during my research. We're going to start with the idea of the tangent universe. So, this idea provides an explanation for the time split in the film and helps explain the way time and space interact. So, the idea of the tangent universe subverts the idea of the chronotope. And the idea of the chronotope is the idea that time and space work together to follow a linear path. And in literature, this means that time and space are interwoven to create a story. And Donnie Darko really messes that up because the events that follow in the tangent universe do not follow the chronotope. They don't happen chronologically, everything's out of order, nothing makes sense. And yet, we still see the narrative, we still see a story, okay? So I had a little bit of trouble finding what the universe was called in my research because it's different from an alternate reality. And the reason I had trouble was because the tangent universe was created by the director, Richard Kelly. And it's an unstable alternate reality that forms as a copy of the original universe after a rip or glitch in time. And this rip or glitch in time is when Donnie survives the jet engine crash. He's not in his bed when he's supposed to be. So, because of this, Donnie's existence becomes critical to restoring the original timeline and creates a narrative in which meaning is produced only through Donnie's sacrifice to save everyone in the final scene. Now, what this means is that Donnie is the one person whose actions can fix the broken timeline, okay? And by choosing to stay in his room and die when the jet engine crashes into his bedroom after he travels through time in the wormhole, he prevents everything that happens in the alternate timeline. And the movie creates meaning through Donnie's choice to sacrifice himself. His death resets reality and protects the people around him, so the narrative frames his sacrifice as necessary and meaningful. So, next one, we have being toward death. Now, this idea helps us understand Donnie's development throughout the film and explains his final sacrifice at the end of the film. So, being toward death means learning to live with death and see it as something completely possible rather than running from it and living in fear from it. And we watch Donnie go from being against death at the beginning of the film to being toward death by the end. In the beginning of the film, like I said, I'm so sorry. Like I said earlier, Donnie was freaked out by the 28 days countdown because he didn't know what was going on. But once he reads the book and he realizes that he's in an alternate reality, and in order to restore the original one, he has to die, he starts to dabble with the idea a bit more. He starts to become more accepting. And then once Gretchen dies and he realizes that he needs to save her, he happily goes back in time and sacrifices himself. And by the end of the movie, Donnie realizes that he can't outrun death, okay? And Donnie is living his life authentically by confronting his death and making it his own. So by deciding to go back in time, to save all these people that he cares about, and prevent the tangent universe from ever existing, he's making his death his own, because the only other option would be that the 28 days are up and Donnie dies with the tangent universe in a black hole, which would be really bad. But he chooses to live authentically and confront the death rather than dying with the tangent universe. He decides to do something about it and save the woman he loves. He saves her, brings her back to life, and they never meet in the original timeline. The next is the idea of the eternal recurrence. So this provides an explanation for Donnie's actions and why he's living the final days of his life as he is. So eternal recurrence is actively choosing your day-to-day fate. It is the ability for one to confirm their fate by knowing they are in charge of it. Donnie is not necessarily in charge of his fate, so let's get into it. Pre-death clock, okay? Donnie's happy living his life as an outsider who silently hated everyone and everything, okay? He's pessimistic, he's got a lot going on. But once he sees this clock, he starts acting out in a way that he hasn't before. And this isn't necessarily bad. Most of the time it is. Like, he's vandalizing, he's arsoning, he's doing graffiti, but he just acts out of character and he falls in love. So, while Donnie's death is technically out of his hands, he can either die with the tangent universe, like I said earlier, or he can sacrifice himself to save everyone. He is the one in charge of how he lives his final days. And in these final days, he catches fire to Jim Cunningham's house, which is bad, but in doing so, exposes that he's a terrible person. So this is good. But he also falls in love. He's doing things that Donnie, who's independent, a loner, closed off, wouldn't do. He would never fall in love. And then he sees this girl, and he's like, oh my gosh, like, I actually really like her, and if this 28 days really runs up and I don't do anything about it, I'm going to be really upset. So he falls in love, and it is one of the reasons, if not the reason, that the film ends the way it does. Because he's in love with her, he wants to save her, he goes back in time, dies, and makes her live, and the tangent universe never exists. Next is the idea of social death. So this helps show that Donnie is living in a world where he is metaphorically dead while simultaneously being the only person who can see the universe falling apart. So social death is the alienation of community, recognition, and identity. This connects to Donnie because Donnie is different and thrives on being individual, which immediately casts him as an outsider. He also suffers from mental health struggles, and visions which make him an outsider that nobody wants to hang around, and this deepens with the tangent universe. And we see this a lot because in one scene, he's in his therapist's office and he's crying. This is his therapist's office. But in one scene, he's in her office and he's crying and he sees Frank and he's like, he's right in front of me. Like, he's really freaking out. But his mom can't help him. His therapist can't help him. His girlfriend can't help him. No one can help him because he moves through time and space differently than everyone else. They can't understand him because he is separate from them. He's in a whole different universe. And it's a whole different form of isolation in itself. And, in my opinion, it's a precursor for his actual death, and that his sacrifice finally can restore the community that he will forever be outside of. So, Donnie can save everyone that he cares about. And he's going to restore them. But he will never know what it's like to be on the inside of that community. Wrapping things up, close reading analysis, we talked about the fact that Donnie Darko utilizes the dreamlike imagery in psychological distress to critique the morality of right and wrong as well as the conformity of suburban life in America. In critical terms, we talked about how all 4 of the critical terms analyze how disrupted time, impending doom, and psychological distress reshape not only Donnie's world, but also help us understand how Donnie can live his life with meaning. How does this connect to class? Well, let's break it down. Donnie's fate. Fate is a big part of the film, obviously. His fate is predetermined, like he will die. But he gets to decide how. He can either die with the Tangent Universe, or he can sacrifice himself to save everyone, which he doesn't necessarily know this is an option. But once the love of his life, Gretchen, when she dies, he decides that he's going to do it. He's going to sacrifice himself so that she can live. Connecting this with sex, it's not sexual, it's more romantic. Donnie falls in love, and it's one of the main points of the film. Donnie Darko is sci-fi, it's psychological, but I also think it's romantic because it's a young boy, he's falling in love for the first time, the only time, and he's so in love and he cares for her so much that he's willing to die to save her. And this connects with death because Donnie dies and it restores the original timeline, yes, but there's a lot of death in the film. Gretchen dies, and that is the reason why Donnie decides that he wants to die. And then Frank dies, and Frank is the reason that Donnie knows that the world is ending. There's a lot of death, but I think all 3, sex, fate, and death, are very much present in the film Donnie Darko. So, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who watched all the way through, and also my professor for giving me support. Thanks!